friends, welcome to the Point. In this session, let's discuss about the India-Bhutan relations part 1. So here we'll be discussing about the introduction and the main bilateral issues between India and Bhutan relations. So the traditionally unique bilateral relations characterized by trust and understanding, it has matured over the years and the basic framework of India-Bhutan relations in the Treaty of Friendship. In the Treaty of Friendship and Cooperation, it is signed in the year 1949 between two countries, that is India and Bhutan. And until 2007, India exercised significant leverage over Bhutan's foreign policy due to this treaty. And when Bhutan transitioned from an absolute monarchy to a constitutional democracy in the year 2008, the Friendship Treaty was renegotiated to give greater autonomy to Bhutan in its foreign policy and its military purchases. But Indian investment, technical support, and the India Bhutan Free Trade Agreement mean that India continues to play a key role in supporting Bhutan's infrastructure development and economy. And our Prime Minister Narendra Modi's first foreign visit to India's small neighbor, that is Bhutan, in the year 2014. So this move, it made it apparent that India acknowledged its solid and special friendship with Bhutan. So one reason was strategic. With the landlocked Himalayan country lying on the border with China, just south of the Tibet, and the other was the large hydropower potential of Bhutan, which has been seen by India as a source of cheap electricity. Okay, now let's discuss about the main bilateral issues. The first thing when it comes to the bilateral issues between India and Bhutan, it is about the hydroelectric cooperation. So the major rivers in Bhutan, it have an estimated potential of 30,000 megawatt of hydropower. So, given the marginal size of its domestic economy, Bhutan has been mostly unable to exploit much of its hydropower potential on its own. Thus, Bhutan has been looking up to the assistance and aid from the foreign countries and agencies for its hydro projects, and India has been the most stable and trusted partner among the all. So, India's investment in hydropower projects in Bhutan since 1960s, it have undoubtedly been an arena providing impetus to the cordial bonding. And hydropower development in Bhutan, it has been the cornerstone of India-Bhutan cooperation. The model consists of India supporting Bhutan in building hydropower projects by providing finance, a mix of grants and loans and technical support to design and construct the projects. And hydropower in Bhutan, as supported by India, is by far the country's primary source. It is said to be the country's primary source of energy for domestic use and local industrial consumption. And it has been a major export and revenue carrier for the last 2 decades. And hydropower exports contribute around 40% to Bhutan's revenue and 25% of its gross domestic product. Bhutan is a net exporter to India, while India gets relatively cheap power, thus making hydropower a win win condition for both the sides. Three hydropower projects. Three hydropower projects totaling of about 1416 megawatt. So they are located in a 336 megawatt of a hydroelectric project in Shuka hydroelectric project and 60 megawatt in Kurichu Hydroelectric Project and 1020 megawatt of Tala Hydroelectric Project are already exporting electricity to India. And for many decades, this has been seen a win-win arrangement. This has been seen as a win-win arrangement, and there are plans to expand it massively. While Bhutan's installed hydropower capacity in the year 2015, it was about 1608 megawatts, and in the year 2006, India and Bhutan agreement on hydropower with an additional protocol in the year 2009. It stated that India would help Bhutan to install 10,000 megawatt of hydro capacity by 2020 and purchase all the surplus powers. But however, this model now threatens to unravel, and one of the most important points coming to the fore is that the economically and commercially, this model is making less and less sense. So the Punet Sangchu 1 and 2 and the Mang Dechu products and the Mang Dechu projects are under construction, which accords to 2940 megawatts of the total 10,000 megawatt to be generated. However, not only the commissioning of the projects has been delayed, but their cost have been escalated massively. So this hydropower has also contributed to steep rise in Bhutan's debt. The challenges are emanating from the growing and the debt burden that the Bhutan carries due to the delays in the major hydropower projects. And as of July 2017, Bhutan stepped to India for three major ongoing projects are Mangdechu, Punat Sangcha, Punat Sangcha 1 and 2. So these are approximately cost around 12,300 crore, which amounts for 77% of the country's total debt and 87% of its GDP. While the cost of 720 megawatt Mangdechu project, it has nearly doubled in the past 2 years. Both Punet Sangchu 1 and 2, which is each of 1200 megawatt capacity, have trebled in cost, and it has been delayed more than 5 years over the original completion schedule. So another issue has been the fact that India is now a power surplus country while the demand growth has been slower than expected. Added to this is the government's push for other renewable energies like wind and solar power. Meanwhile, the interest repayments on projects that are being financed by India as 30% grant and 70% loan at 10% annual interest. They are piling up. And also, Bhutan's over dependence on India as the only customer of its hydropower makes Bhutan extremely vulnerable to any fluctuation in India's demand. And these projects, they are also having massive environmental impacts like loss of forest lands, disturbance of wildlife habitat, heavy dust pollution from the construction work, damage of water bodies such as streams and ponds, and severe stress on water resource in the region, and so on. So the considerable amount of voice has been coming up from the environmentalists who critique the viability of the big dams. So the issue has been raised in the northeastern part of India, which shares a direct land border with Bhutan. So the construction of mega hydropower projects in Bhutan have adverse impact on the lives and livelihoods of people, those who are living in the downstreams areas in Assam and other states in the northeastern parts of India. So next, now discuss about the trade issues. First one is that of double taxation avoidance. So this was signed in March 2013 between the two governments, and internal procedure for implementation it has been completed both in India as well as in Bhutan. And the double taxation avoidance agreement it entered into force on July 2014. And secondly, India is Bhutan's largest trading partner. So a free trade regime exists between India and Bhutan. And the Indian Bhutan Trade and Commerce Agreement, this was first signed in the year 1972. And India and Bhutan it have signed an agreement on trade, commerce. It has signed an agreement on trade, commerce and transit on 12th November 2016. So this provides for free trade regime between the countries that is aimed at boosting the bilateral trade for the mutual benefit. So it was last renewed on July 29th, 2006 for 10 years, and the validity of this agreement was extended for one more year or till the new agreement comes into force through the exchange of diplomatic notes. So India and Bhutan it mutually decided to bring into force a new bilateral agreement on trade, commerce and transit with effect from June 29th, 2017. And this new agreement will further strengthen the bilateral relations between India and Bhutan. And this agreement it also provides for a duty-free transit. It also provides for a duty-free transit of Bhutanese merchandise for trade with third countries. So the bilateral agreement it aims at cutting down on documentation and adding additional exit and entry points for Bhutan's trade with other countries. So in the year 2015-16, the major commodities exported from India to Bhutan were petroleum products, machine tools, motor vehicles, cars, and products of iron and steel and so on. So while the major imports from Bhutan were power, iron and steel, and inorganic chemicals, plastic, sheet and film, alcoholic beverages, and so on. So now let's discuss about the BBIN Motor Vehicles Agreement. So Bhutan had rejected the BBIN Motor Vehicles Agreement, and this also created as the issue between India and Bhutan. And let's see what is the issue is about. So in a major setback to India's regional cooperation strategy, Bhutan's upper house it rejected a move to have the country join the Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal Motor Vehicles Agreement. BBN is nothing but Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal Motor Vehicles Agreement, which cites environmental concerns in November 2016. Earlier, the lower has passed this pact, and the four South Asian nations it signed this BBIN agreement in June 2015 in Thimphu, Bhutan. in what it was seen as a significant symbol of sub-regional unity. This sub-regional pact was being seen as an important milestone in Prime Minister Modi's diplomatic agenda to a policy called Act East policy and forge a regional cooperation boosting trade ties in that region. So it was India that introduced and pitched for the pact in the year 2014 SAARC summit in Kathmandu, urging the South Asian neighbors to fortify regional economic ties. So this motor vehicle agreement, it was proposed to reduce transport costs drastically and foster development of multimodal transport facility for a better connectivity between these four countries, that is Bangladesh, Bhutan, India and Nepal. So it allowed the member states to ply their vehicles in each other's territory for transportation of cargo and passengers, including third country transport and passenger vehicles or personal vehicles. But however, there has been reservations among some selections within Bhutan about the viability of this agreement, that is given that it was a small country and Bhutan's reservation on damaging its environment is not unfounded. And the tourism in Bhutan's single largest revenue generating industry and small Himalayan nation has carefully guarded its pristine natural habitat, and it has even worked out a low volume, high value tourism strategy. It has worked on a low volume and high value tourism strategy, and it maintained its status of an elite tourist destination. And threat to the environment is not only the loophole in Bhutan's hand. The landlocked nation finds itself gaining little from the agreement amid a long list of demerits. Bhutanese truckers have raised concerns that large number of foreign transporters flying into Bhutan it could eat into the local businesses. An unrestrained influx of vehicles and people could dilute Bhutan's culture and religion and possibly give rise to the crime rate in the region. Also, the pact was in conflict with Bhutan's Immigration Act, and Bhutan it severely lacks the basic infrastructure of roads, bridges, checkpoints, and so on to implement the agreement. So, after Bhutan's upper house, the National Council rejected the bill, and the only way to get parliamentary approval was to table the draft legislation at a joint sitting of both the chambers. And a joint parliamentary committee was formed to find a compromise. And the committee, in its meeting on April 20, 2017, it failed to reach an agreement with all sides sticking to their position. And the Bhutanese government later withdrew the bill to ratify the pact from the agenda of the upcoming parliamentary session. So this is all about the BBIN motor vehicle agreement and its issues. And finally this agreement it was not approved by Nepal government. So in the next session, let's discuss about the China's factor in Bhutan and Bhutan's border dispute with China, and what were the details of the fallout of Doklam episode on India-Bhutan ties and so on. So see you in the next session. Thank you.